Welcome to Recotopia. It's episode 182. My name is Chris Atkinson, joined by Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everybody.
And joined by Aaron Dicer.
Howdy ho, locomotive arenos.
Yes, that's correct. Today's big recommend is 310 to Yuma from 2007. We'd also like to welcome chat who have come out here to watch us talk about movies on a Tuesday. Hello, everyone. Appreciate you coming out. Let's get on to our small recommends. Aaron, what do you got?
Going to the world of television. New show out on FX on Hulu called The Lowdown. This is Ethan Hawke and Jean Triplehorn is in here as well. And Kyle MacLachlan playing a big role in this one too. Anyways, I think what I have fallen in love with the show in the 2 episodes that are out so far is the tone. I think this show has a really interesting, humorous tone to go with kind of the glut of crime dramas that are on TV, right? Like solve the crime dramas that happen on television now. And I think a lot of this has to do with Ethan Hawke, who is just superb in this role of this man in this small town who is going after a bigger than he realizes conglomeration of people. And so he's doing it. He calls himself a truth teller, and he's doing it, by writing articles and these tiny papers and those kind of things. But he is getting himself into some messes, and the way he handles that and gets through that has been, to this point, hilarious, interesting, and I'm curious where the plot is going as well. So yeah, really, really fun stuff, interesting stuff. I watch it on Hulu, which is where FX's stuff is now. So yeah, good stuff.
Is Ethan Hawke's found a whole bunch of inspiration in the past year. I feel like doesn't he have 2 movies coming out plus he's got this series, and it's crazy how much he's doing lately. I think he normally in some sort of any given year he'll do a movie, but he likes to be on stage and he does a lot of stage work and stuff like that. But he must have eschewed that this past year to do a whole bunch of stuff, and he's getting raves for everything he has been doing. And I haven't had a chance to watch any of this stuff. I saw a trailer for this the other day. It looked very, very interesting. So I'm going to have to give this a look.
He's also one of my favorite people to see interviewed. He's up there with Matt Damon, and he's a really thoughtful guy who has really taken time to educate himself not only about the industry but about life and being a human. He's just a really fascinating person too. So, but yeah, this is on my radar. I'm in the middle of task. I'm about to start Alien Earth. I'm going to get to the Lowdown at some point.
I do want to throw out a couple other names I didn't mention. Keith David is in the show.
Yeah.
Tim Blake Nelson has a role in the show. Tracy Letts, who I always enjoy when he shows up. And then Michael Hitchcock, maybe my favorite part of this show. He is just hilarious as kind of this small town. What would you call it? With a pawn store owner, maybe. Anyways, just a great cast, a lot of fun. So yeah,
awesome.
I went to the theater last weekend, and I took in One Battle After Another, the latest Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And movies like this tend to get super overhyped, and this one did for me, for sure. Before it came out, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't hear anything. I even had a friend who was showing me reviews, which I don't read beforehand. I don't read the reviews of movies beforehand, but of course a lot of times it's this movie's getting super raves, it's getting Oscars, it's going to have all the Oscar nominations at the end of the year and blah blah blah. And then he's even he was this is the last one that I'm not gonna look at anymore. Then he started sending me more links the next 3 days later, and I was like, my man, I don't need any more hype about this movie. I'm watching it. So I don't want to overhype it either, because I don't think I love this movie, but I do really, really like it. And I think it's an interesting approach to um, what happens basically to a revolutionary when life happens is basically what it comes down to for me. Leonardo DiCaprio is a guy who is an experienced bomb guy, or at least he's the best bomb guy that the revolutionaries have in this movie. And he falls in love with Tiana Taylor, and so there's a point where he falls in love and they have a child together, and suddenly he's ready to kind of settle down into that life, whereas Tiana Taylor is still kind of like, I'm still kind of wild, I'm still kind of a revolutionary, but unfortunately she gets caught, and then things happen from this point forward. She gets caught again. I don't want to ruin too much about this movie or anything, but I think this is one of DiCaprio's most interesting characters he's ever played in a movie. There he's not doing anything different here. It's just that his character is so much different, and I find him always interesting. And there's some moments of hilarity in this movie that just keep going. They're just beautifully written, beautifully acted, and I think he is fan freaking tastic in this. This is one of his best performances, and considering I wasn't a big Killers of the Flower Moon fan, and I didn't like him in it and all of that, this is a good comeback for me. And for some people, it's whatever. But like I said, I don't want to give too much away about the movie, other than the fact that I really liked it. There is a great scene towards the end, the way they filmed it and everything. Fantastic. We've seen a million types of these scenes in movies before, but I really feel like PTA pulled out his Hitchcock on that one, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. Some aspects of this, I think everybody who watches this movie comes out of it, whether you hated it or you liked it or you loved it or whatever, saying, I got to see that again. And I think that's the mark of probably something that's going to last for a while. Even when people don't like this movie, they're like, I want to go see this again. And so at least it wasn't to the point where it was so boring or terrible or whatever that they're like, nah, not giving that another shot. And so I think this movie does deserve that. It's going to deserve several different viewings. For me, on the first blush, if I was something I didn't like about it, it just didn't feel like it had a super strong story to it. But maybe once I'm used to what this movie is truly about, I won't worry about this movie, what I felt like it could have been or whatever, like these type of things, because I don't think that's the movie's focus at all. The type of thing that I was sort of putting in my head as to what it was, especially after seeing trailers and after hearing so many raves and everything. So anyway, I say go out and see this movie. I don't think it's going to be a tremendously huge hit, because PTA movies hardly are, but it's done I think some of his best business ever, even despite that. And I hope it gets a good following.
You are not wrong about the hype of this movie. It currently has a 95% on Metacritic. A 95 on Metacritic. That's insane. It has a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Also insane. And I think on Rotten Tomatoes is a 96%. Like, it is across the board, people are coming out of this and hyping it up. So I do understand wanting to be careful about that, because that can lead to diminishing returns. Having said that, I'm going to hype it up, because I think this is easily one of the best movies of the year. And in my mind, this and Sinners will be 1, 2, and one order or another this year. I was blown away by this movie. Now, PTA for me is, I wouldn't say hit and miss. He's always interesting. But like, I don't like Inherent Vice. I think it's a pretty bad movie, honestly. I'm not a fan of The Master. Even I know a lot of people are. I think the Master is him giving into his worst instincts, in my opinion. This is PTA following his best instincts. And you mentioned the scene at the end, and I will go with you in not spoiling what kind of scene it is. But you're right. I came out going, how have I never seen this before? Like, and I'm sure there are movies that have done it, but the way he shoots it, just in the moment, I was giddy in my theater seat. It's also so funny. There is a phone conversation with Comrade Josh that is maybe the funniest thing I've seen in a theater this year. It's just, the performances down the line are astounding. You didn't mention Benicio del Toro, who is insanely good in this and adds something really interesting to the texture.
Well, and in my efforts to not say anything, I end up not saying enough. So there's like Benicio del Toro, and then there's Sean Penn, who's probably doing his best work in forever. And I think he even came out and said I was kind of slumming it for a while and not doing my best work, and then I came out and then I did this and whatever. And then Chase Infinity, who is probably the biggest revelation in this whole movie.
Yeah. So I understand the fear of overhyping something, and I apologize for being part of that wave, but I really loved this movie. So
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The hype is real. I am one of those people that will read reviews before seeing the movie. I'm pretty particular about which reviewers I'll read, and I tend to stick to ones that won't spoil things. But I've read reviews that are straight up saying this is going to be remembered for 50 or 100 years, like already saying this movie will stand the test of time, which is quite a thing to say. But I am definitely curious to check this thing out. I have been ever since it was announced, and that first still came out of Leonardo looking like he's never looked before. So yeah, very, very curious to check this out, and glad that you both are thumbs up-ish. Oh, it's my turn. With the passing of Robert Redford, I found myself watching 3 days of The Condor last week, which is not a film I had ever seen in its entirety. I think I'd caught a couple scenes while flipping channels once or twice before. And it's weird to say, because we've seen so many of these since, to say that this is a fairly standard spy with questions on the run kind of movie, but this is probably one of those movies that set that mold that has then been repeated, that we've seen a bunch of times since. So Robert Redford works in the American Literary Historical Society, which is just a cover for a CIA office, and he reads literature and looks for patterns, essentially. And he sees a book has been translated into a bunch of different languages, even though it hasn't sold very well. And he's a little suspicious about that. So he sends that on to his superiors. And then he goes out to get lunch. And then he comes back from lunch, and all of his coworkers are dead. And he calls the CIA boss. And the CIA boss is like, okay, we're going to bring you in. I want you to go and meet with the head of your division. And he's like, I've never met the head of my division. I won't trust him. And like, well, we'll send a friend of yours with him, and somebody that you know. And he's like, okay. And then they go to the meet, and it's a trap. And then he meets Faye Dunaway, and he kidnaps her and takes her to her apartment and forces her to let him lay low there while he tries to figure out what's going on. And that's all I'm going to tell you. And I found it very, very interesting and fun. It's a breeze, not necessarily tone-wise, but in terms of how quick it goes by. There's not any wasted time at all. It's a Sidney Pollack movie, and it's on MGM Plus right now if you care to watch it. But it was my first full viewing of 3 Days of the Condor, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, this was a part of a ton of conspiracy theory movies that came out in the 70s, where you had stuff like Marathon Man and The Parallax View. And
Marathon Man came on directly after this movie.
You should have seen that too, because that's a good one. And so I would say there's like 20 to 30 of these that came out in a short period. It's funny that you mention all this stuff at the beginning, or Redford going out for lunch, which he does in sneakers, which I'm pretty sure they are kind of kind of alluding to in sneakers when he goes out, and then and his buddy gets taken to jail or whatever, and and stuff like that. But yeah, and then this is the movie everybody pointed to when Captain America Winter Soldier came out. And talk about something that hyped a movie up for me, all in the wrong reasons, was that they were like, Redford's in Winter Soldier. This is this conspiracy theory, like an old crackerjack 1970s conspiracy theory movie. and I watched it and I was like, no, it's not.
Nope.
It kind of is. It's got some allusions to it, but whatever. But yeah, this is a good one. This is a especially in the time after Redford's death. I'm sure this one has gotten a huge amount of views over the past couple of weeks.
I bet.
Yeah, I saw this for the first time just a couple years ago, and also really, really think it's kind of the definition of a good tension-based conspiracy thriller. And the romance stuff I felt was a little much at times, but and it didn't quite need it.
It's the 70s, man.
But it's the 70s. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think if you made that movie today, they would sleep together. But
yeah. Yeah, but man, it's a good watch for sure.
All right, going on to our big recommend, and it's Aaron's turn this time, and he is going to talk about 3:10 to Yuma. So take it away, Aaron.
All right, 3:10 to Yuma is a 2007 remake of the 1957 Western, and probably the genesis for my love for James Mangold. The man is gold, I tells ya. Okay, on to it. The movie starts with a young frontiersman boy observing his dime novel collection by matchlight. This is William, played by baby Logan Lerman, who hears noises outside and tells his father, Dan Evans, played by Christian Bale, who then goes outside to stop the bad men, but they've already set fire to his barn. They tell him he's got a week to pay them back or they'll burn the house down too. His son tries to save the horses and feed, but eventually Evans pulls him out and says he'll take care of it. To which William says, no, you won't. And kids, am I right? Shortly thereafter, his wife Alice, played by Gretchen Mol, is questioning him about why she wasn't included in the financial decisions. And his younger son Mark is wondering if maybe he should just shoot the bad guys like his brother Will is suggesting. Next, we're introduced to Ben Wade and Charlie Prince, played by Russell Crowe and Ben Foster, respectively, as they run an assault on an armed transport that has a giant Gatling gun, several riflemen, and the poor decision-making skills of someone who decides to point the biggest weapon you have at the unseen sniper instead of the horde of armed pursuers right on your tail. They eventually run the Evans family cattle across the road to finish the job, and then they're mean to Peter Fonda, so really, how dare they? The Evans boys are observing all this from the hills, and as Dan tries to move his boys out of there, William is absolutely enamored with these bad guys. They're spotted, and a brief standoff between Ben and Dan ends in them parting ways, with the Evans in control of their cattle, but short a few horses for a bit. Ben, Charlie, and the gang then head to town, trick the railroad guy and the marshal's crew into leaving town, and enjoy some drinks and scripture quoting at the local bar. Charlie leaves Wade to seduce the local barmaid by telling her about her green eyes. The marshal's crew meets up with the Evans crew outside of town and realize they've been duped, so they all drag the injured Easy Rider back to town to have his bullet taken out by the town veterinarian. And hey, look who it is! It's Alan Double Penis. And yes, that was a Moana joke before that. Good catch. Side note, my grammar check wants me to change it to Alan's Double Penis, and I appreciate the effort, but I got this one, Grammarly. Anyhow, Doc Potter does his job, and Ben Wade does some Titanic Jack sketching of his lovely lady. Down the dusty road, Evans confronts his debt holder, Hollander, who admits that he diverted their water supply and is basically kicking them off their land so he can sell it to the railway. Desperate Dan then happens upon benevolent Ben, who pays him for his time and takes just long enough doing it to be distracted and caught by the returning crew. They put together a posse, including the Doc and Dan, to transport Wade to face federal charges. But with Charlie and the others around, they have to pull a switcheroo to throw them off the trail, and now Ben Wade will be a guest at the Evans family's new Airbnb as they try their luck at the gig economy to survive these uncertain economic times. A few razor-sharp dialogue conversations between Ben and Dan, Ben and Alice, and Dan and Alice later, the crew wades out into the dark of night to head towards the roll credits train departing at the roll credits time. And young William is sneaking out to follow them as well.
Fucking kid.
Around the fire that night, Wade gets under Dan's skin with some chatter about his wife, and the always slimy Kevin Durand sings a lullaby to Ben Wade, who then rocks him to sleep permanently in his own special way before morning. Meanwhile, Wade's crew is finally caught up with the decoy, And after the idiot acting as Wade in the train does all of the idiot things, including missing Ben Foster at point blank range and believing in the goodness of bandits to let him live if he talks, Foster commits the crew to racing back 80 miles to the town of Contention to save Wade from his appointment with a certain afternoon locomotive. After Dan suggests they go through Comanche country on their trip to quicken their route, Wade gets the jump on Uli's gold and throws him off a cliff for talking about his mama. It looks like all is lost until a little bit of Deus Ex rebellious adolescence and saves the day. Later that night, when the Comanches attack, Wade uses the chaos to escape. Unfortunately for him, when he finds a train construction site the next day that he thinks can get him out of his handcuffs, it just happens to be overseen by the man whose brother he killed and Luke Wilson. Honestly, not sure which is the worse luck. But the Evans crew manages to show up just in time to rescue Wade from continuing some electroshock therapy. They manage to escape, but not before the movie engages in some Alan Tudyk thinks he survived a miraculous event right before a surprise piece of metal goes through him to end his life cliché. The Evans crew finally arrives in Contention, but now they have to make it to the 3:10 to Yuma train, or 15:10 to Yuma if you prefer not to have it confused with the one that goes out in the middle of the night. Wade's crew takes care of the home fries gang, and we get the sense that we are leading toward a final confrontation before we hit 10 after 3. And indeed, young William spots them riding into town right around 2:30, meaning they've got to hole up for 40 more minutes and then make it to the train. The local law has agreed to help, but after Charlie in the Talk Threat Factory offers anyone who shoots one of Ben Wade's captors $200, they are out faster than a colonoscopy patient counting back from 10. And of course, Charlie shoots them on the front porch anyway because evil's gotta evil and all. Dan strikes a deal with the train man Butterfield that if he gets Wade on that train, Butterfield will make sure his boy gets home and his family is taken care of. So now it's time to make the half-mile journey to the train. Side note, the fact that Charlie has to start shooting townspeople because they don't know that they aren't supposed to be shooting at Wade is some of the funniest and most poignant social commentary of all time. Loved that. Wade and Evans' route to the station is difficult and near impossible, and when the two of them get into a scuffle, Ben gets the upper hand on Dan. But just as he's about to strangle him, Dan tells him a story about how he's never been a hero to his kid, and that's all he needs to hear. That's all he needs to hear to be on team. Get me to the train on time. The two of them run across roofs and get to the depot just in time before realizing that the train is running late. Of course. Once it does finally arrive, they are too pinned down to make it to the door, but William has once again shown up to save the day, this time by rustling some cattle and giving them a bit of, that's right, bovine intervention. Ben gets on the prisoner train, but just as he's congratulating Dan on his job well done, Charlie pulls a dead villains are never dead cliche and shoots him several times, not realizing he and the boss are now best buds. Wade kills his entire crew as punishment. William manages not to take revenge on Ben and instead holds his dying father. And as the life wanes from his father's eyes, a new respect grows in his own eyes for his now dead dad. Wade surrenders himself to the 3:10 to Yuma and with a quick whistle bids his horse to follow while leaving the audience to watch him go and ponder how much William could get on eBay for that Ben Wade original pencil art that he drew of his dad on the hotel Bible. And that is 3:10 to Yuma. Guys, what did you think this time through?
Oh, man. I love this movie. I really do. And what I was struck the most with this time is that nobody has to be just one thing for their whole life. Really evil people can have a moment of good. Really cowardly people can have a moment of bravery. And I feel like almost all the characters in this movie demonstrate that in one way or another. And I think William is ultimately the main character of this movie. These events are going to decide what kind of man he becomes moving forward. He shoots Ben Wade at the end. He's going to become Ben Wade. He lets him go. He's more likely to become a good man like his father. And there are even placements throughout the movie of people who have had life events that completely changed the course of their life, like the singer who's now a bartender because she got sick and has to move to drier climate. Dan's leg getting blown off by friendly fire that completely changed the course of his life. And so the movie is that event for William that's going to completely change the course of his life one way or the other. I think the movie's deeper than I gave it credit for in my previous viewings in that way. It's really an examination of how a good man can be, a bad man can be good, and an okay man can be good. But I also not sure I'm ready to say Ben Wade is good. He does do some things that save Dan's life for a while. He does do some kindnesses, but that we don't, there's not a chance in hell he's not breaking out of that jail. Like, he's not actually intending to let himself be captured. And even the good act of shooting all of his gang was still vengeance. It wasn't an act of kindness. He was still, ruthless.
Hell, you can even say he doesn't even get to the jail, considering he calls his horse.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I just I love the way that final shot is awesome, because it lets you just kind of, the train goes around the corner and you're like, well, what do I think's going to happen? I know what I think's going to happen. I love Ben Foster. This movie put Ben Foster on the map for me, and now I will watch almost anything Ben Foster does. I don't know how you steal scenes from Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, but this guy does it in this movie. He's absolutely menacing. The scenery, man, I don't think I ever appreciated the cinematography in this movie because I was so into the shoot, bang, bang, ride the horsies. But I had to stop several times and just admire. And I even stopped and thought, I bet they stopped while filming and just looked around every once in a while and went, wow, it's beautiful out here. I love the little hints. Like, okay, first of all, Gretchen Mol is great, but if she doesn't have that conversation with Ben Wade alone at the dinner table, that might be a thankless role. She does well in the other scenes of conveying a wife that loves but also has some doubts about her husband. But it's that conversation with Ben Wade, where she says, "Don't talk to me," and then immediately starts talking with him. And it's a great performance, and I love the speculation you can have when Russell Crowe says, I knew a girl in San Francisco. She had green eyes like yours. You ever been in San Francisco? She never answers that question. I don't think it's the same girl, but the movie allows me to wonder. And I think the only complaint I have about this movie is it's probably about 12 to 15 minutes longer than it necessarily has to be. But I don't mind it. It doesn't feel like a long movie when I'm watching it. And I have lots of other notes, but my general thoughts are that this movie has somehow gone up in my esteem in this latest viewing, and it was already pretty high up. I do think Luke Wilson is an odd choice. It's one of the more, it's the kind of casting that pulls me out of the scene for just a hair. He does fine with the role, but seeing his face, I'm like, what? Because I associate him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a rugged Western type.
No.
The explanation that I believe was illuminated by the James Mangold commentary, which is what I watched earlier this morning, is that he was friends with he was roommates with the armorer on this movie. So I don't know how all that came to be. He was roommates with the armorer on the 310 to Yuma, and I guess that's how he said, "I'll do anything, just give me any role. I don't care." And so they gave him that. They gave him that one.
Interesting. I'll pepper with some of my other thoughts as we go, but that's my general thing. Although I did want to say, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Tom Cruise almost played Ben Wade, and I think he could have crushed that. It would have been different, but I think he could have crushed it.
That would have been interesting, considering Christian Bale's basically playing Tom Cruise in American Psycho, and that was, I wonder if that baggage would have been brought into this movie. So
that's interesting.
That would have been amazing if that had happened. But yes, I'm glad it's Russell Crowe. I I really like this movie too, and I think you're right that Ben Foster completely steals it. Like Russell Crowe and Christian Bale are so at ease at what they do that they just kind of knock it out of the park. Meanwhile, Ben Foster comes in and is just like the guy upstaging everybody, and it's a testament to Crowe and Bale that they're not trying to do anything too showy to try to like keep up with the younger actors or whatever in this thing. And I got a lot of like other little insight into, you know, stuff that, you know, James Mangold was talking about how the scene where Russell Crowe is like sitting there making that sketch of Christian Bale and everything, and he's talking about how he's telling that story, and the entire time he tells that story, he's just looking down and doing this sketch. And only at the end does he look up at the camera. And he says a lot of actors are like, would just want to be with their face towards the camera the entire time. But Russell Crowe, a true professional, except when he's throwing phones at people, you know, is like, decides, you know what, this movie doesn't need that. I'm going to sit there and do this way, and you don't need to like sit there and see my, you know, piercing blue eyes the entire time. But when I watched this movie over the weekend, and then I watched it with the commentary. I don't think I had really realized this at the beginning. So this is really sort of the thing from the commentary, is that Russell Crowe is playing a character that is so bored with his current station that he's just looking for any excitement in life. And I kind of, that either just missed me or the movie didn't do a good enough job to, I don't know what it was, but now that I know this, I can obviously see it a little bit better. But you know, the scene with Vanessa Shaw where he seduces her and you know, he goes up and like Aaron says, he jack sketches her you know, and everything. When he goes up there and he tells her like, let's go to Mexico and let's get out of this and everything, he really does want to do it. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, this is just your average everyday like guy just wanting to get tail seen, and like, you know, he's not really, he doesn't really mean any of this, but he truly does. He's tired of this whole thing, the whole thing about stealing from trains and stealing from stagecoaches. He's kind of done with it, but he's sort of ambivalent about the violence that's necessary with it as well. But he's bored and he wants to do something different now. And I didn't really catch that the first time through. And I felt like the commentary was the first time that it really got pointed out and that I could see that and everything. So I thought that was really interesting way to have a character that is supposedly the bad guy, and Mangold very clearly says, you know, he's not really the villain in this movie at all. And if you read between the lines, I really do believe the villain of this movie is the railroad tycoons, because everything about this movie happens because of the railroad tycoons. The whole reason why Christian Bale is in the situation he's in is because of these greedy bastards. Meanwhile, Ben Wade, all he's doing is just stealing from these very wealthy people who are actually committing way worse acts of violence on their way to building tracks across the country and everything like that. And a lot of times we don't think of it that way. We don't look at this kind of like, you know, corporate greed as an act of violence, but a lot of times it is, and a lot of people get hurt over it and everything. So I thought that was
he's going to lose his home to the railroad. So in order to not lose his home to the railroad, he has to go take a job for the railroad.
Yeah, and a lot like what we were talking about with Sorcerer, right? Where like that same type of theme came up during this thing. And so like it's interesting and I feel like this movie applies a lot to modern day life. Like we have all these like we antagonize each other over all these things, and then if you realize who's kind of behind it all, you know, it just like corporate greed is behind so much of our like anger and you know, and what we're fighting with other people about and everything. And if it just wasn't for that, we probably could come to, like, you know, some agreements about things. And, you know, so, like, yeah, that's sort of the beauty of this movie, is that, yeah, I don't think Ben Wade is a good guy just because of that. I think he truly is a bad guy, because you shouldn't be doing these things. But, like, at the same time, if you decide to go the Christian Bale route, guess what? You're just going to get screwed, is basically what this movie
Even
is.
Half the posse traveling with him are arguably worse people than he is. There's that whole scene where he points out all the atrocities that Uli's Gold did. Mowing down.
I love that this small movie has gotten 2 mentions in this thing today. Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, he mowed down children. And then the guy that gets killed with the fork because he sings "They're Gonna Hang Me in the Morning" song, but that's the guy that burned down Christian Bale's barn. He's clearly an evil, immoral person, which again is, I think, part of the theme of the movie is the spectrum of morality, and how bad guys can be good and good guys can be bad, and none of us are probably all one or the other.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's pretty clear in the movie, is that, you know, that I do have a hard time applying that same logic to a Ben Foster character, but then again, his character is so driven by the admiration of Ben Wade that, like, even he has some, I think there you can sympathize a little bit in the fact that he's never had a true father figure and everything. And like, this is his real father figure and everything. And that was another thing that, you know, Mangold was talking about in this thing, is the sort of the I guess the contrast between Christian Bale and Logan Lerman. Logan Lerman obviously doesn't hold his father in high esteem whatsoever, and almost feels like he's trying to take over being the man of the house before, you know, his dad is dead or gone or anything like that. But then you have the Ben Foster character, who's obviously just super and even Christian Bale's kids are admire this Ben Wade guy. Yeah. Like there's something, you know, magnetic about not giving a fuck and doing what you want and not adhering to the rules. And I think that's sort of what that's sort of the power of the dark side, right? Is that you forget about doing good once you see somebody living that life where it's like, you know, I'm independent of that. I'm above that. I don't need to worry about that. You know, there's something about it. So yeah. I did like this a lot better this time. I already did like it. It's just, you know, I think now that I've gotten a lot of, like, you know, extra hours on this movie, and hearing Mangold talk about it, I really, really, really enjoy it now. So
yeah, it's a grower. It's a grower for sure. Like every time I watch it, it absolutely gets better. I this time was focused on 2 things. Number 1 was focused on how this flips the father-son dynamic of most movies on its head. You know, most movies are about sons trying to live up to the expectations of their fathers. This is a movie about a father trying to live up to the expectation of his son. And that's a really interesting thing. The only other movie I could think that does this really well is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is also a movie about a father living up to his son, not the other way around. And there's something really interesting about that. And maybe one of the subtle reasons that I fell in love with this movie the first time I saw it is I had 4 very young boys the first time I saw this movie in 2007. I think my boys were from 3 to 8 You know, they were between the ages of 3 and 8 when I saw this, and just thinking about what, you know, legacy means when it comes to children and those kind of things is this overloaded thing that parents wrestle with, that maybe they give too much weight to, maybe they don't give enough weight to, and finding that balance and trying to figure out, you know, what all those things mean. And what this movie seems to say to me in that respect is that action is important. The results of that action will determine the benefit, right? So, you know, Ben Wade's action on his son Charlie have a negative impact because of the results of his actions, whereas the Dan character's actions are based in a love of his family, are based in, you know, trying to do something, but he does something, he acts, and when he acts, the consequences are that he actually turns this terrible human being into somebody who respects him and will try to work with him to get this thing done, because he sees the love this man has for his son. And it's also probably recognizing, like you said, Chris, something in himself, some failures in his own priorities and pursuits. And man, this time through, I was just so aware of that all the way through. The other thing that plays right into that is Russell Crowe's performance. This time it stood out to me in a really new, interesting way. I think he is so smooth in a lot of what he's doing, and yet at the same time, there's this underlying like discontentment. Like even when he's, the thing I took from the green eyes thing, because he uses the same line on both women. We see him use it on the woman at the bar, and we see him use it on the wife as well. And I think in those moments, he is longing for Dan's life. He's longing for a simpler life. He's longing for a place where he doesn't have to live up to whatever this machismo thing that he's built for himself is. And I don't know, I think he plays that really, really well. I honestly don't know if Cruise would have been able to play all of those notes. I think Cruise would have been great and interesting, but I think it becomes a really different character with Cruise's, you know, I call it chewing gum energy. You know, there's not as much like smooth under the surface, you know, with a lot of what Cruise does. So, yeah, I was really impressed with Russell Crowe this time through, even more than the others. And yeah, the movie just continues to grow in my estimation as well.
Are you guys some kind of posse?
That's a great line. And that little smile he gives after he says that he came in from Mexico or to get the, you know, whatever, is so good. Yeah. There's a line in the chat that Shaggy talks about. The government said my leg was worth $198, and he's like, Christian Bale has that line. I'm going to mess it up right now, but he says something to the effect of, "I thought they were paying me that to so that I could walk away or whatever, or they could walk away, or I could walk away." Yeah. And then I realized that it was so that they could walk away. And that was a thing that Mangold said that he wrote a week before they shot it or something. It was one of those type of things. And like, God, I love those kind of stories when something's not even in the movie and they decide, okay, here's how we're going to make the movie better, or here's how we're going to fix the movie. Like the marshals that are in the hotel room or the bridal suite or whatever they're in, they apparently shot that where they just walked out and they left, and the movie just said, all right, they've left. They didn't have a part where they got shot outside or anything like that. And so an assistant director came up to Mangold and said, like, okay, so when they're going on the rooftops and they hit the train station, do the marshals come back and like help out or what? And so they ended up just saying, you know what, let's just kill them so that they're not even in the story anymore. So basically that comes down to Ben Foster and his and those characters down there. They just as soon as shoot you as to let you go. So yeah, so they shot all that and made that part of the movie. I thought that was really interesting too. So
yeah,
when he decides but when he decides to help and run to the train with Bale and be teammates, it's exhilarating to me to see the bad guy flip that switch and go, fuck it, I'm gonna help you. And he's one of the best gunmen in the West. It's exhilarating. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. Anyway.
Here's a question for you guys. Do you guys think that he expects or hopes that Ben Foster knows what's going on here at the end and doesn't shoot Christian Bale? Or do you think that there was no way to know and he's caught up in the moment after Ben Foster shoots Christian Bale at the end?
I think he changes his goals. And so, yeah, I think for me, once he starts running with Christian Bale, I don't think he cares about Ben Foster anymore. I think he's become a different person in that moment. And that's why he's so easily able to off Ben Foster. He probably never cared about Ben Foster's character.
Well, sure.
I think he, if I'm going deep in the character, I would think that character is now, his goal and motivation is to get on that train, help this man out, and then escape from Yuma in his own way for the third time or whatever. Like, that's his goal. And if his men were to come after them in a way that he could, like give them a look or a sign or whatever, like, I'm good, that's what he would want to do. But he didn't see it in time, and it was just too late. Because he tries to stop, like, he says no, but it's too late. So I definitely don't think he wanted them to kill him. I think he was hoping, if it came to that he would have time to give a signal to his pit bulls, to heal.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't think that this is a possibility. I think he thinks once they get to the train, they're safe. There's not going to be anything there. And then Ben Foster just sort of comes out as a surprise there at the end. But yeah, that was an interesting thing for me trying to work through. It was like, there's no way he could have told Ben Foster if he tells Ben Foster in any way, then they start pulling punches or pulling gunshots, or so to speak, towards the end. And it's not real. It's not, Christian Bale wasn't the hero in that instance. So I know that he can't telegraph it in any way. And I think it's just that it's interesting to me at the end that he still blames him for doing exactly what he was expected to do in that situation. So
yeah. And I guess what is he expecting if he gets on the train? They're going to kill him anyway. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to know that he was with him. So there is an element of, I think maybe one of the things he respects about Dan in that moment is that he knows Dan is sacrificing his life no matter what today. Like, that Dan just wants to do this one thing, and he knows that, Charlie and the rest of them will kill him. So maybe there is an element of a foregone conclusion. But in that moment when he saw it, he didn't want it.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thought.
All right, let's get on to our super secret double feature, which Jeremy suddenly had a look of worry come across his face for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't worry, but anyway, let's go to our super secret double feature, and I'll go ahead. There are several that I came up with here, and I ended up going more plot based than tone based or anything like that. But the whole, like, trying to get someone to another location type of movie that I thought of, and we're talking about polar opposites here on tone, but Midnight Run is the movie that I decided to super secret double feature this with. De Niro and Charles Grodin. If you've never seen Midnight Run, please do yourself a favor and watch that movie. It is one of the movies, by the way, that I frequently get cited as one of the all-time most uses of the word fuck ever. It's like used 300 and something times in the movie. It's they say that like it's an or an or whatever during the movie. But Midnight Run, I'll hold off on any others that I might have thought of on this one. But Jeremy, what do you got?
I went with a completely different decision matrix than you did. I'm going all on themes. I do think there are some good westerns that would match up tonally, but I was so obsessed this viewing with that bad guy isn't all bad, good guy isn't all good thing, that I'm going with Heat. Where you have two men,
Another
there's
De Niro.
kind of a chase going on, and the bad guy, he has good qualities. He loves his woman, he treats her nicely. The good guy has a lot of bad qualities. He treats his woman badly, and yeah, I just think if we're going to sit and have discussions afterwards, this would be a really good pairing to discuss the morality of man.
What's funny is in the chat, the movie Collateral was mentioned in as far as like Tom Cruise and whatever, but that also has some elements of that where you have a good guy and you have a bad guy, but then they have to kind of team up sort of during the movie. That type of thing. One person is always in danger, the other person is like the assured, like, I know what's going to happen type or whatever, but I feel like that one works really well. It's funny too. I think Mangold said something about he patterned Copland after the original 310 to Yuma, and he even named the Sylvester Stallone character after Van Heflin, who was the good guy in the original movie and everything. I thought that was really interesting. Considering all these different things about corporate greed leading to, the common man fighting each other for their interests and everything. Of course, I thought of Sorcerer, and that's why that came up during the discussion. I also thought of Matewan, which I small recommended a few weeks ago. Same kind of deal there. It's one of those things where the corporation says you can't start a union, and then if you're going to start a union, they start doing all these underhanded tactics to make sure that all of you hate each other based on race and based on economics and all these different things. And I even thought of, and this is not a double feature thought or whatever, but I even thought of Die Hard, because there's a part in there where Ellis is in there with Gruber, and he's like sitting there going, he's like, you use a gun, I use a pen, what's the difference? And it's like, yeah, exactly. This Nakatomi Corporation's not as good as you think it is in Die Hard. There's some evil people in that Nakatomi Corporation. Anyway, yeah.
I really like those choices. One that came to mind is one we've already mentioned today, which is One Battle After Another. Feels very much like this movie in a lot of ways, including the parent-child dynamic. So like, yeah, there's some interesting comparisons there too, but yeah, lots of great choices.
Yeah. It's getting to the point now where I'm never going to be able to unsee it whenever some sort of conflict like this comes up in a movie where there's a corporation kind of behind it that always seems to like dodge being the bad guy. And, it's kind of hard now, some of these movies that they're being made by big, huge corporations. So,
Yep.
They have to hide that message a lot of times. All right. So on to next week's homework. I have been wanting to big recommend this for a while. It's not on very many streaming services. I think it's only on Criterion. Maybe it's on Hoopla. But next week I want to do Grosse Pointe Blank from 1997. This is one of my all-time favorite comedies. So I have been wanting to do this one for a really long time and decided this would be the good time to do it.
Kathy, clip your string.
Yes. So very excited about that one, but yeah, I believe it's on Criterion and then maybe Hoopla. I don't know if that's what you guys are saying, but otherwise it's a rental fee. So
I haven't seen that in probably 10 years, so it'll be good to go
10 years.
Oh, wow.
10 years.
I did not do that on purpose. I promise.
I know you didn't. That's why it was great that I got to do that joke.
Yeah, I'm excited to go more in detail with this one. I saw it recently for the first time, and as a Michigan boy, there's some interesting Michigan stuff in here. But yeah, absolutely. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Once again, chat, thank you guys so much for coming out. We appreciate you so much.
you guys do that conversation during the chat. And sometimes I'm like, man, I hope I don't say something and just steal your idea or whatever. But you guys you really bring it a lot of times. And I really appreciate you guys coming out and everything.
Agreed.
But yeah, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you next time. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.